Welcome back to Umass Sports Weekly. Joining me at the table is Chris Corso and Tony Bolduc. We're here to talk a little NBA. We're going to start off with the Celtics. It's been a rough season, a lot of ups and downs here for the Celtics. Big down was with the Rondo injury we saw about a week and a half ago. But, since that injury, we've seen some success with the Celtics. So, Tony, I'll start with you. Do you think they're on about a 4-game win streak right now, I think it is. Do you think this success can continue without Rondo?
Yes, absolutely. I think that the Celtics are now playing as a team. The way the Celtics used to play before was everything used to run through Rondo. Rondo would get the ball, dribble up, everyone would run the screens for each other, and he would dribble the ball until there was about 10 seconds left on the shot clock, and then they'd have to force up a jump shot. Now what the offense is doing is everyone's getting a touch. Everyone touches the ball, and they're getting better shots. They're getting to the paint. They're scoring more. They're playing better basketball overall and defensively. I just think Rondo's a great player. You can't take that away from him. But at the same time, Rondo would need to have the ball in his hands at all times, which would make other players less important. Now you see the Celtics having 52 bench points versus the Clippers, with 14 from Jeff Green, 14 from Barboza. I mean, you're not going to get that with Rondo on the floor. And I just think that they look like they're playing better basketball. They've won 4 straight against teams that have beaten the Celtics while they had Rondo. So they look great. I love the new Celtics. I think that without Rondo, they could keep winning.
So let me rephrase my question for you then. Are the Celtics a better team without Rajon Rondo at point guard?
I think they are, because he's a great player.
I'm going to have to go off here.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to have to go off here. The stats don't lie. They lost 6 in a row with Rondo, and Rondo got injured. They won that big game against Miami, and then they won 4 in a row. The stats don't lie with what's been going on, but there is no way that the Celtics are going to make any noise in the playoffs. Every Celtics fan has forgotten that they were just 1 game away from making it to the NBA Finals, and they were winning in that fourth quarter of that game, and the Heat won that Game 6 in the Eastern Conference Finals, and then they won Game 7. Nobody remembers that in the playoffs when Rondo was the man, and he was
Rondo
the hero.
is the playoff
He
man.
was the hero back then. He was the one who's leading the NBA in assists, and now they go on a little 4-game winning streak, and all of a sudden, this team is better they're in the 8th seed right now. They're a mediocre team, and there is no way they're going to contend with a team like the Miami Heat or the New York Knicks or one of those top teams in the East. There's no way this can happen if there's no Rajon Rondo. This guy is the best point guard in the NBA right now, besides Chris Paul. And I think it is absolutely insane.
He destroys the Celtics
Absolutely
offense.
insane for Celtics fans to say this. They are playing well. They're also getting older. But I think Rondo is the main guy when it comes to the Celtics. And you better keep him around, because if you trade him, they will not have a nice future ahead with Garnett and Pierce aging.
Now, that's a hard point to argue that Rondo, with his stats, we've seen what he can do. But what we saw different this year was that the Celtics came out before the season even started, letting everyone know that Rondo's the leader. They're letting Rondo guide this team. They're following his lead. So I get what you're saying.
I despise Rondo. I'm a Knicks fan.
I understand that. That's why we're keeping you down a little bit over here. But do you think that him being called out as the leader, is that what maybe affected it? Because there's no denying that last year, with Rondo on the team, he makes the Celtics a better team.
He does.
Hands down. But we're seeing a lot different team this year. It's a lot different roster.
They weren't succeeding with Rondo at the point guard. You can see that. They had an under 500 record. I will give him, he's one of the better playoff performers that the NBA's ever seen. He's got the second most triple-doubles behind Magic Johnson. But at the same time, the way that the Celtics, it is 4 games. I agree with that. It is 4 games. But the way that they're playing, it just looks like more of a team game. I think the whole leadership, like you said, they gave him the leadership role. I think that made him try to do more than he actually needed to do. And I think that the Celtics, now with Rondo off the floor, spreads the floor for everybody else, because when you would drop the ball into the post to Garnett or Pierce was running off a screen, Rondo's man didn't even have to cover him. So everyone was getting doubled, and Rondo would stand up at the key. His jump shot was improving, but at the same time, it's still not a play that the other team doesn't mind him taking. They don't mind him taking jump shots at all. And I just think that we will lose him. He's an important part to our playoffs. But I think that the Celtics, with the heart that they have, the captain leadership, Garnett, Pierce, Doc Rivers is a great coach. They could still make a great run in the playoffs.
Do you even see them as a playoff team?
I see them making the playoffs as a 7 or 8 seed, but I see them losing in the first round because without Rondo, I do not think it's possible. You got to rely on Pierce to score at least 25 a game because there are not enough guys on this team to score, especially without Rondo assisting, making it, all the assists he brings to the team with all the role players that they have. I don't think there's enough guys that can create their own shot on the Celtics team right now, especially when the defense. Keep in mind the defense steps up in the playoffs, especially when you're playing the Heat, especially when you're playing those top teams like that. Defense steps up, and I think it's going to be hard for them to create shots for themselves without Rondo running the pick and roll with KG and dishing Pierce and dishing all the other role players, Avery Bradley, all those guys. I don't think it's possible for them to make a run, but I do think they'll make the playoffs.
All right, a lot of varied opinions up here. We'll see how it goes. Plenty of season left, plenty of time to talk about it. We'll stay on topic with the Celtics right now. Obviously, the favorite topic, even the ones that hate the Celtics, fun to talk about. We're seeing a lot of trade talks with Garnett right now. Some trade talks with him heading out to the Clippers. Maybe Eric Bledsoe coming out to the Celtics. Tony, I'll start with you. What do you think about this trade and what could happen with it?
I think it's all media hyped. I don't think that KG, he has choice. He can opt out of his contract and he can go to a different team. He has a no trade clause. But I think Doc Rivers and Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce are a core. They are sticking together until the end of Pierce's and Garnett's career. Garnett was considering retiring a couple years back when Doc was considering retiring. KG says he bleeds green, he eats green, he sleeps green. He's a Celtic for life. He says the Celtics have changed him completely. I just think that they're not going to make this trade. Doc thinks it's all media related. He says it's a bunch of garbage. So I just think that the Celtics wouldn't benefit from it at all, except for if they were giving up this year and moving on to the future. And I don't think that's what they're going to do.
Out of town view, how do you see this?
I like how you left Ray Allen at a little core of 3 there. But yeah, Garnett, he's still worth $23 million more. I don't think this is going to happen. This will be rough for the Clippers to take on all that salary, especially with the season they're having this year. Before Paul got injured, they had the best record in the NBA. So to trade Bledsoe and Caron Butler, 2 of their key pieces, I don't think this is going to happen. But I don't think the Celtics are going to do this. Garnett should retire a Celtic. No matter what any fans say, I believe that. And he's won 2 championships with them. Ever since he's came there, he's taken in the Celtics fans. And I do not think that he is going to be traded. And Vinny Del Negro, the coach of the Clippers, said most of what's being reported isn't accurate at all. So that was reported on ESPN. And I do not think this trade is going to happen. I think it's all media hype, just like the Pierce trades were, just like the Rondo trades were. These guys are staying. He's retiring a Celtic. It's got to happen.
Well, we know if Garnett has it his way, he definitely will be retiring a Celtic. So me and Tony personally hope to see that most definitely.
KG, my boy.
So a trade so much not hyped up by media, but that actually happened was the big Rudy Gay trade that happened last week. Some of the main components that got moved around, Rudy Gay went to the Raptors. We saw Tyshawn Prince go to the Grizzlies, and Jose Calderon got sent to the Pistons. So 3-team trade, a lot of moving around, some other parts in there, but those are the main parts you need to see. Chris, how does this trade affect these teams, all these teams in general? Because a lot went on. Well,
Casey, this is a trade that really mostly affects Toronto the most. I think some people said it wasn't a great deal for them. I think this is a great deal. They made the big free agent signing with Kyle Lowry this season as a point guard. He was injured at the beginning of the season. You have him back. Now you have Rudy Gay and DeMar DeRozan. Those 3 guys, they're calling them Air Canada right now. I like those 3 guys. You have Terrence Ross on the bench, who's been showing a lot of promise as a rookie this year. A couple of highlight reel slam dunks. This team is 7.5 games out of the 8th spot right now, where the Celtics are. I think they can make a run. They got Lowry back. They got Rudy Gay, who I think is a superstar. I really do. He's led Memphis for the past 3 years to the playoffs, pretty much with some help, but he's pretty much the high scorer on that team. I think this was a great deal for them. I really see Toronto maybe making a little push to get in one of those last spots in the playoffs, and who knows, if they start clicking together, Bargnani comes back, I think this could be a team that could be reckoned with. I don't think they're going to make a lot of noise in the playoffs, but I think they could sneak in there.
Tony?
I'm thinking that definitely the Raptors made out the best because they got the best player in the deal. They got a all-star in Rudy Gay who comes in. First game he came off the bench, he scores 20. The next game he starts, he scores 26. I mean, the guy's definitely going to. They were lacking a superstar, and he's definitely going to bring that to them. He's going to bring them a lot of scoring that they need. And then for the Grizzlies, I think that what they were thinking was in the long run. They have Rudy Gay, he was signed up until 2014, 2015 season, but he had a big contract. So what they're going to do is, I think they were looking to sign Zach Randolph and Marc Gasol in the offseason for longer deals because they think that their franchise is better off with them, and that's kind of true because there's not many teams that have two big men that can dominate like that. And the thing that they lost though was a great scorer, and they don't really have much of a guard scorer much anymore than Mike Conley, who's a pretty good player. But I think they're still gonna make the playoffs this year. They're still a playoff team because they still have good players. But at the same time, they lost a superstar, and that could hurt them in the long run. Yeah,
like you said, I think they had to make this deal. I think it hurt them just the way the Thunder had to trade James Harden because they couldn't afford him. Right. You saw the $80 million deal that he got with the Rockets this year. So it's a deal they had to make. It was a rough deal to make. But when you have all those players you got to sign, they had to do it. So, I mean, it hurts to see that because this was an up-and-coming team that's been growing over the past couple of years. But it was something they had to do. And maybe they got a prospect in Austin Day, and they got a veteran who has a couple rings in Tayshaun Prince. Yeah, so maybe they could still make a run. We'll see what happens. I think the West is a little too powerful, though, with the Thunder and the Spurs at the top.
Well, a lot of reaction with that Rudy Gay trade around the league among players and stuff on Twitter. There was a lot of surprise that Rudy Gay went for what he went for because people that play in the NBA and play around this guy feel he is one of the top players in the NBA.
I agree, absolutely.
So I mean, you said it's a deal they had to make. We know it comes down to contracts. Sometimes you just have to make that. Do you think they had to make that now in this specific trade, or do you think they had some time to try to work something else out? They definitely could have got more, without a doubt.
They absolutely could have got more. I personally would have kept Rudy Gay, and I would have got rid of Zach Randolph, who I feel is not a team player. I mean, I would have kept Randolph and Gasol as my two guys, which I think they could have afforded in Memphis. They got the fan base now in Memphis, definitely, that they built up over the past couple of years. So I would have got rid of Randolph. I wouldn't have traded Gay right now. I think the deal would have been to trade Randolph instead of Rudy Gay. But again, being said, Randolph is having a year that many people think he's the best power forward in the league. So, but I think Rudy Gay is an irreplaceable talent, and I don't think you're going to come along a guy like him in a really long time.
Well, we'll see what goes down up in Toronto. A lot of excitement up there on that roster now. Should be fun to watch. Guys, just close this up on a negative note, I guess. We're going to talk about Mr. World Peace. He's also known as Ron Artest. Mr. World Peace.
He's not representing that name.
The man bringing peace. Yeah, we're actually, to talk about him, we don't really talk about him that much, but to talk about World Peace, we're going to talk about his one-game suspension for being violent.
Makes sense.
He got in a little scrum with Brandon Knight, who he's probably 3 Brandon Knights and probably got about 1.5 feet on him. Yeah. So it's, it's not the fairest thing. It's not the most peaceful thing. It's not the most meta thing. It wasn't really anything that has to do with him. Tony, what's your opinion on Ron Artest, a.k.a. World Peace?
I think that the suspension was well-deserved because he blatantly grabbed him by the neck and then threw what was, to be said, an uppercut, but it was a hand to the face. So it was just an unnecessary. He was in Detroit. I'm surprised things didn't start getting thrown at him again. Things could have gotten out of control. Good thing Ben Wallace wasn't there. But I'm just glad that he did get a game suspension because I think he's a dirty player. I think he's out of control, and I think he needs to represent his name a little bit better.
Chris?